The last time we had an interaction like this, I remember the gap that I was feeling when I first sat in the chair. And then as we talked, the gap began to close, and I felt this warm, it was like bathed in pure liquid love the longer I sat here. Is that what you mean by closing the gap?
It's exactly what we mean. And it's understandable in a setting where there are hundreds of people and you're walking up on a stage and exposing yourself in whatever it is that you're wanting to talk about. And especially if you've got something that you really want to know the answer to that you don't know the answer to, it's logical that there would be a split in your vibration. And it's also logical that as you listen to us and hear us, as we pull out all the tricks in our bag and stand on Esther's head in as many ways as possible, that we would lure you into vibrational alignment. But we want you to know, and this is why the poignancy of this question is so wonderful, we want you to know that you don't need Esther, because your source is calling you toward all of the answers to your questions, all of the solutions to your problems. In other words, the source within you, in the midst of your question or problem, the answer has come, and the larger part of you knows it. And so as you have that experience sometimes where you feel yourself come into alignment, now you can achieve it at all times without us. And that's what you said when you sat down. It's almost as soon as I ask a question, this warm glow comes over me. I come into alignment and the answers come. And the answers don't need to come through words into your mind or to appear written on a wall somewhere. The answers will be given to you through the crack of least resistance. The entire universe is queued up to give you a piece of it here and 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 here. No end. No end to your questions either.
No.
And that's really an important thing to acknowledge. You're never going to stop asking, and you'll never stop receiving.
I have a question about, for lack of a better word, prophecy. And my question is about the difference between prophecy and attraction. How can you distinguish between prophecy being fulfilled and attracting something into your life? And I'll give you a new example. You get a certain feeling about someone or a certain situation, and it's either good and you stay, or you get a negative feeling and you escape. And then you see that certain feeling come to fruition. Is that a prophecy, so to speak, that you were anticipating, or is that a thought that you then brought into your life?
Well, there is truly very little distinction between the two. Let's say that you go sit on a park bench and you have this feeling that there's a monster in the bushes. And so then you wonder, is there really a monster in the bushes, or do I just think there's a monster in the bushes? And we say, in any event, get away from the bushes. And then you take it further with your question. You say, yes, but if I think there's a monster in the bushes, is it because there is a monster in the bushes, or am I creating a monster in the bushes? And we say, in any event, get away from the bushes. And you say, but is there really something there, or is the negative emotion that I'm getting because I'm in the process of creating it? When you have a manifestation, it's an indication of vibration. When you have an emotion, it's an indication of vibration. So if it feels good, keep doing it. If it doesn't, change the subject as fast as you can.
Okay. Let's take that a step further.
You
feel that there's you feel that there's a monster in the bushes, but you're thinking, okay, I'd like to train myself not to think negatively. And you're thinking, okay, is this me coming
but wait,
into...
you see, we don't want you to say, I'm thinking negatively, and that's why I have this emotion. We want you to take the emotion as an indicator that you're not in alignment with what you want. And then we want you to think about what you do want. So let's say there's a monster in the bushes. And let's say you feel negative emotion because you don't want to be the monster's lunch. So, getting very dramatic, isn't it? And you've been studying deliberate creation. You're learning about creating your own reality. And so you say, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to think so completely about well-being that I do not feel any discord at all. And we say, if you are able to do that in that very short period of time, you would change your vibration, and even if there was a monster in the bushes, he would have no interest or no attraction to you. But why risk it? because you're not being tested. In other words, every time you test it, you turn upstream. In other words, there isn't anything for you to prove. We want you to just tune yourself downstream. If we were talking to you on the first day of your physical experience, we wouldn't even have this conversation. We'd say to you, your source energy, you're in a physical body, everything always works out for you. We'd say to you, you are the creator of your own reality, and life will help you know what you want. And when you get a whiff of that, give it your undivided attention, and the resources of the universe will back you up and give you a fulfilling manifestation about everything that you want. But when we visit with so many long after, when they've developed habits of thought that are contrary to their well-being, most people just don't go cold turkey and stop thinking those negative thoughts all at once. And so you have so much leeway. There really isn't any urgency. There's no reason that you ever need to test anything in that sort of dramatic fashion. What you think and how you feel and what manifests is always a vibrational match every single time. And so while it's nice to get an emotional hit on it ahead of time and change it, what difference does it make? You are where you are, and the stream's still flowing, and you never get it wrong, and you can't get it done, and the reason you never get it wrong is because it isn't ever done. So just keep standing where you are and doing your best to feel as good as you can feel, and before long, only good things are coming to you.
Okay.
Did we really get there for you?
Yeah. Thank you.
Something more?
I was thinking about this pattern of thinking negatively, of always thinking there's a monster in the bushes. And if you do that, you're never going to have a good park bench to sit on. How can you learn how to distinguish between sort of a pre-manifestation, and how can you learn how to distinguish from this is just my old habit of always thinking there's a monster, of always thinking there's a monster?
Well, we would just talk to ourselves in these terms. First of all, your life is not turning out that way. The evidence of your life is one of much more well-being than not. So you say to yourself, my paranoia is a bit irrational because there are all of these good things that are coming and those bad things aren't coming. The balance of my being must be way more well-being. We tease our physical friends by saying, you're not creating this planet from your physical format, but from your broader non-physical format. If everything that you thought manifested instantaneously, all of you would be in a lot more trouble than you are. But you live with this buffer of time, and the larger part of you, far and away the larger part of you, is pure positive energy, which gives you tremendous leeway. It just doesn't feel good when you point upstream instead of toward who you really are. So you say to yourself, this paranoia is illogical. I'm going to start training myself to begin looking for more of the positive things. Jerry and Esther were laughing because they have this thing going, and it's because they've been observing what is, and neither one of them have taken the time to clean up their vibration. But they put their breakfast card on the door in hotel after hotel, carefully checking off everything they want to eat and the time that they want to eat it and how many people there are and the room number. Esther writes very carefully, and he would like strawberry jam with his whole wheat toast. She's very diligent about the way she writes it, and they put it on their door in the hotel room, and someone from the hotel is supposed to come and collect it and then bring their breakfast for them in the morning. And morning after morning, Jerry opens the door and the card's still hanging on the door. Nobody came to get it, you see. It's funny to them because they know that it's a vibration that they've got going and it's not the end of the world. So as they stop and they say, nobody picked up our breakfast card. They're just beating the drum. And then as they say, this hotel isn't very well organized, they keep the vibration going. And so hotel after hotel after hotel, we're not kidding you, doesn't pick up their breakfast card. And it's not because they're bad, and it's not because they don't pay their bills, and it's not because the hotel staff isn't good. It's because Jerry and Esther have got this funny little vibe going, and they haven't taken the time to clean it up. So this morning, Esther said, we'll go back to our hotel room and we'll have a quiet lunch there. And Esther said, I'll call our lunch in order in ahead of time. That way it will be here or soon after we arrive to have lunch. And when they got there, lunch didn't come, and lunch didn't come, and lunch didn't come, and lunch didn't come. Well, these are some of those monsters in the bushes that you're talking about. In other words, you begin to be paranoid in the sense, and by that we only mean when you observe what is, and you beat the drum of what is, and you don't like what is, but you still beat the drum of what is, it becomes a chronic vibration, which is what an expectation is. And we want you to understand that you create your own reality, and well-meaning hotel people just can't buck your current. So when you say, I've got a little paranoia going, we want to say it in a different way. We want to say, you've got a little observing what is itis going on. In other words, you've got what is itis. And Jerry and Esther do too on that. Until they clean that up, that's going to be the manifestation. And because it's no big deal, they always work it out. They always have a nice conversation with nice people, and they always eventually bring them their lunch, and it's always something that they can talk about. In other words, it's no big deal. If it were, they'd clean it up. It's just a little monster in the bushes, just a little monster in the bushes that will continue to be there until they clean it up, you see. And that's what we love about manifestation. It shows you right where you're vibrating. And so we would say to Jerry and Esther, how does that make you feel? And they would say, well, slightly irritated and a little overwhelmed, a little rushed. It makes us feel rushed. When our food doesn't arrive in the time that we need it, it makes us feel rushed. And we say, been feeling rushed lately? And then they should laugh because they feel rushed a great deal. They've crammed so much into every hour of every day. They have every contraption known to man so that they can get as many possible things done as possible. Sometimes Esther has 5 computers all going in the bus all at the same time. This one's spinning that tape. This one's converting that to an MP3. This one she's doing email. This one she's doing different things. So when we say, do you ever feel rushed? Well, maybe. And as long as you feel that way, then things that equal that keep coming into your experience. You have to find a way to change the way you feel amidst what's going on. In other words, many people would say, well, if the hotels would bring our breakfast on time, then we'd start observing that, and then we'd change our vibration. And we say, doesn't work that way. You have to change your vibration, and then the manifestational indicator of your vibration changes. So we don't see any big monsters lurking in your bushes. It seems to us that you're doing extremely well. And what you're talking about is you find yourself often, as does almost everybody, thinking thoughts that you don't want to think. And we don't want to frighten you about your thoughts. We hear you, cancel. You try to suck your thoughts back before law of attraction gets hold of them. Don't want that to, and we want you to realize you have plenty of leeway, and it's good that you recognize it. That's the most important thing. Recognizing that you're feeling an emotion and then doing something about thought to try to shift the emotion. That's the key to deliberate creation. We have enjoyed this interaction immensely. It is delicious to come together with those like you who are pointed in your wanting and soft in your willingness to allow. We make way too much of all of this, friends. It is not a difficult thing, now that you know what you know, to come into alignment with who you are. We love reminding you that you are source energy in a physical body. And we love reminding you that the source within you is expanding and benefiting and evolving, becoming more, so much, much more, as a result of that which you are living. We want to express to you our appreciation for that which you have offered to that which we are. For without your willingness to explore, the expansion that we enjoy could not be. And in a sort of delicious cosmic exchange, we stand in vibrational readiness for your alignment with your own becoming. And when you even get sort of kind of pointed in the direction of it, the celebration begins in the feeling of relief that you find when you stop the resistance. There is so much love here for you. And as always, we remain joyously incomplete.